and on some highlights on vote observations and recommendations. On the Committee on Foreign Affairs, vote 006, Minister of Foreign Affairs. The committee notes that failure to, there are actually a challenge with paying. The committee is gravely concerned about Uganda's persistent failure to fulfill its financial obligations to organizations as listed above. As of December 2025, Uganda's arrears stood at 90.231 billion, and no funds have been allocated for clearing the arrears for there's 8 organizations, that is Commonwealth Foundation, United Nations Secretariat, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, Africa Union, IGAD, World Food Program, UN Peacekeeping and Tribunals. And additionally, no funds have been allocated for annual assessment contributions totaling to 25.54 billion. The committee notes that failure to pay subscriptions to international organizations adversely affects Uganda's international standing, undermining Uganda's voting rights and full participation in meetings, and limits employment opportunities for Ugandans within the intermediate international organizations. Our recommendation, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, is that the Minister of Foreign Affairs be allocated additional funding of 90.231 billion to clear the outstanding arrears, and the 25.54 billion for payment of Uganda's annual assessment contribution obligations to international organizations. On the enhanced pension and gratuity for the retiring officers in the ministry, the committee recommends that the ministry be provided additional funding of 2.1 billion and 200 million for enhanced gratuity and pension payments for its staff to avoid accumulation of arrears and delayed payments of terminal benefits for retiring officers. On vote 501, missions abroad, generally we recommend that government should provide additional funding of 1.2 billion to the missions in New Delhi and 200 million to the mission in Kuala Lumpur to facilitate the repatriation of trafficked Ugandans in their respective countries of accreditation. Missions countries with a higher number of Ugandan migrant workers, such as Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, should each be allocated an additional 500 million to enable them establish rescue shelters and provide the requisite consular support to distressed Ugandans. This funding could be availed to them every financial year. This is a recurrent issue. Additional funding for consulates in Arusha. The committee recommends that the mission in Dar es Salaam be allocated an additional 710 million in financial 26 as subvention. Funding for maintaining operations, the mission in Kinshasa, the mission in Kinshasa is we pray that the mission in Kinshasa be allocated 672 million for the rental rental of temporary offices with adequate space to accommodate all staff in one location, since our embassy was burnt down during the riots. On Committee on Gender, Labor and Social Development, vote 124, Equal Opportunities Commission. The renovation of the dilapidated Equal Opportunities Headquarters. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance provides funds of 1 billion to enable the committee renovate the building at Bugolobi, as this would enable the staff to relocate from the expensive rental offices at Kingdom Kampala and save money which would be used for other critical activities. Right now there is up to a tune of 4 billion in rent in Kingdom House. Committee on East African Community Affairs, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, vote 021, Minister of East African Community Affairs. They have a wage gap. The committee recommends that a wage gap of 165 million be provided to the budget for the ministry. Participation in regional and international agreements. The committee noted that the Minister of East African Community Affairs is required to participate in a number of occasions in different negotiations, but has failed to participate in key regional meetings due to lack of funding. Attending of regional meetings, participation in bilateral engagements, trade negotiations is a key part of their mandate. The committee noted that MECA requires 3.6 billion, which has not been availed. So the committee recommends that Minister of Finance provides 1.8 billion for the participation of MECA officials in regional and international engagements, which are critical to our integration process. On visibility and communication of MECA, the committee recommends that the ministry be provided 1.2 billion to create awareness on the importance of AAC integration. Their recommendation retooling. On the Committee on Finance, Plan and Economic Development, vote 108, National Planning Authority. There is a local government development plans. The committee recommends that the Minister of Finance reinstates NPA's full 5.4 billion non-wage allocation under the Sustainable Urbanization and Housing Program. This will ensure that local government development plans are developed to avert delays in infrastructure coordination and compliance with the Fiscal Planning Act. Vote 141, Uganda Revenue Authority, Domestic Revenue Mobilization Initiatives. The committee recommends that URN is 40.78 billion in order to undertake the above domestic revenue mobilization, and this resource could be provided so that they can achieve the targets that they are expecting to bring in. On vote 131, Office of the Auditor General. The Auditor General noted that their scope of audit has expanded, and the committee noted that over time the scope of audits have expanded due to the growing number of administrative units, emerging areas such as PDM, oil, gas expenditure, and increasing demand for public works audits, value for money audits, special audits, and forensic investigations. The Auditor General is unable to cope with the expanded scope due to limited budgetary allocations, resulting into backlogs. In addition, the adoption of the thematic reporting and ISSAI-140 as the I-10, the need for additional resources. The committee recommends that Uganda shillings 12.053 billion be provided to the OAG to enable it to execute its expanded mandate. Inadequate staff numbers. The committee was informed that the Office of the Auditor General employs 605 staff out of the required 1,890. The limited staff numbers has impaired the officer's ability to fully execute its mandate. The committee recommends that Uganda shillings 10 billion be provided to reduce on the staffing gaps in the institution in order for them to execute their mandate. The Office of the Auditor General also reported aging fleet of vehicles, and the committee recommends that 7 billion be provided to the procurement of field vehicles to replace the aging fleet. On Financial Intelligence Authority, implementation of strategic actions in preparation for 2028 mutual evaluation on Uganda. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, you know, we have been on this grey list and we came out of it. Now we have a problem. We need to do something. The committee was informed that the Financial Intelligence Authority plans to implement strategic actions in preparation for 2028 mutual evaluation on Uganda. This is critical to permit adequate preparation towards the realization of post-mutual evaluation results to deter FATF listing Uganda again in the bad list. The specific target actions relating to the regulatory and legal requirements, self-assessments, on-site activities, and face-to-face meetings will require Uganda shillings 4.5 billion. The committee recommends that FIA be provided the money or worth 4.5 billion to undertake the necessary actions in preparation for the 2028 meeting in order to keep Uganda off the FATF grey list. Committee on Fiscal Infrastructure, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, vote 016, Ministry of Works and Transport, the reduction National Roads budget. The committee noted that the National Roads and Construction Department budget is projected to reduce by 12%, that is by about 301 billion, from 2,502.7 billion to 2,201.7 billion in the coming budget. The committee was informed that the projected reduction of the National Roads Maintenance and Construction Department budget by 12% will have significant adverse implications across maintenance, rehabilitation, and upgrading of interventions as specified in the budget. There is also further deferment of periodic maintenance and expansion of backlogs. There is slackened implementation of ongoing rehabilitation projects. There is scaling back of planned rehabilitation and upgrading of some works. These are challenges. There is shift from preventive to reactive maintenance regimes. There is increased contractual and financial exposure. There is deterioration of road safety. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, the committee further recommends that restatement of the national roads budget by 301 billion towards national roads is needed in order to mitigate the resultant factors that are costlier in the long run as listed above. On road safety, the committee notes that the government has in place a comprehensive action plan geared towards road safety improvement in the country, although enforcement is lacking. Hence, the recommendation that government prioritize enforcement as outlined in its national safety plan, as it will go a long way in reducing road fatalities and other relevant factors, apart from collecting more revenue from errant persons. Government should also gradually increase allocations towards road safety interventions. 3. Government should also allocate 1.7 billion for recruitment of staff to under MVIS, motor vehicle inspection. The delayed upgrade of Isinjiro Mutukula Road. The committee therefore recommended that there is that concern. The Isinjiro Mutukula Road corridor is one among many other roads. 135 kilometers from Rakai through Isinjiro district, Mutukula, and crossing into Tanzania. The committee therefore recommends that government fast tracks upgrading of Isinjiro, Kigarama, Kashumba, Kasheshe, Mutukula Road, Nakapiripita, Mudat Road, Namalu, Lashe, Nabilatuk Road, as specified in the resource envelope which was got recently from the Islamic Development Bank. The committee also notes that Ministry of Finance and Islamic Development Bank signed a country engagement framework for Uganda for the period 2025 to 2027 to support economic resilience and sustainable human development. The ISDB group allocated a resource envelope of 800 million for the 3-year duration for this CEF. The major projects to be funded include the one I mentioned, that is upgrading of Nakapiripita Mudat and Nakamalu Nablatuk Lakapel Road, and Isinjiro, Kigarama, Kashumba, Kasheshe, Tanzania border to Mutukula Road. Committee on Presidential Affairs. Vote 001, Office of the President, construction of constrained operations, the Uganda Print and Publishing Corporation. The committee recommends that 30 billion be identified and be allocated to vote 001 to facilitate acquisition of the modern equipment so as to enable Uganda Print and Publishing Corporation aligned with modern technological and production standards. Vote 002, State House. Inadequate budget provision for wage expenditure category. The committee recommends that 4.28 billion be allocated to vote 002, State House, to provide for the wage shortfall in the financial year 26-27. Support the graduate of the skilling program. Colleagues and other members, Mr. Speaker, we know the skilling hubs across the country, but most of those people who go to the skilling hubs come without any support. So the committee recommends that 140 billion be allocated to State House to facilitate the setup of one common user facility per zone for these trainees. Vote 107, Uganda AIDS Commission. Intervention to reduce HIV and new infections in Uganda. The committee recommends that Uganda shilling 6 billion is needed and be provided to vote 107 to facilitate scaling up of HIV communication campaign and research against HIV. Establishment of HIV and AIDS coordination zonal offices. The committee recommends that Uganda shilling 3 billion be provided to vote 107 to enable Uganda AIDS Commission establish the 6 additional regional offices so as to take preventive measures on HIV spread. Vote 159, External Security Organization. Coordination of external intelligence management. The committee recommends that 12 billion be provided to enable the external ESO efficiently and effectively maintain foreign diplomatic stations, foreign strategic areas of interest, and field stations. Construction of ESO headquarters. The committee recommends that 32.55 billion be provided to vote 159 to kickstart the construction of ESO headquarters. Vote 167 on science and innovation. The committee recommends that 10 billion earlier earmarked for agriculture interventions implemented by 3D be maintained for the same purpose for 26-27. Vote on Defense and Internal Affairs. Vote 004, Defense and Internal Affairs and Veteran Affairs. There is a shortfall in food staff. The committee recommends that the required 112.2 billion should be given priority in the coming budget to prevent the need for supplementary allocations during the budget implementation. Vote 120, Director of Citizenship and Immigration, Border Automation Systems. The committee recommends that 1.02 billion be given to DCI, IC, in the final 2026, aiming to boost efficiency and revenue at all our border service points. Uganda Police Force, vote 144, Uganda Police Force wage bill. The committee recommends that allocating an additional 28.016 billion to the Uganda Police Force wage bill for financial 2026-27 to cover salaries for the 10,000 PPCs recruited last year. Vote 145, Uganda Prison Service. Uganda Prison Service needs a reallocation of prison headquarters. The committee recommends that Uganda Prison Service be provided 32.56 billion to construct a new prison facility at its land in Luzira. We need our building back. Vote 1617. Vote 135, Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratory. Operationalization of DGAL regional laboratories. The committee recommends an additional 1 billion to construct a regional forensic laboratory in Oima and operationalize the one forensic lab over the medium term. There is also a need for modern scientific equipment, which needs 1.8 billion for the maintenance of scientific equipment during the financial 26-27. The Director of Government Analytical Laboratory also needs laboratory reagents, chemicals, and consumables worth 5.4 billion for the procurement of these reagents. The committee recommends that this money be provided. This director also needs money for staff training worth 540 million, where the committee recommends the same. And also the laboratory needs 650 million for accreditation internationally. Let's go to the Ministry of Health. Committee on Health. Vote 014, Ministry of Health. Operationalization budget. A number of public health facilities were upgraded to new statuses, but there was no equivalent increment in their budgets. The committee therefore recommends that 20 billion be provided for the operational costs for 300 road and 14 boat ambulances, 300 ambulances and 14 boat ambulances that were given across the country. Equipment and maintenance costs. Inadequate funds for servicing and maintenance of medical equipment and other equipment in health facilities. As a result, hospitals and health centers often have idle and non-functional diagnostic, oxygen, and life-saving equipment due to lack of maintenance contracts, spare parts, utilities, biomedical engineers, and so on. So the committee recommends that 2.1 billion be provided for procurement and installation of ultrasound scan machines in 84 public health center force and at a cost of 25 million each. Human resources for health. This was Mr. Speaker and colleagues. Inadequate human resources for health at different levels due to inadequate wage, recruitment delays, and failure to attract some cadres, which affects service delivery. The committee recommends that this coming financial year, Uganda shillings 132.6 billion be provided for recruitment of at least 16,963 staff in the financial year 2026-27 in various public health facilities to increase the staffing levels to at least 45%. For operationalization of the organ transplant, funds are required to support the organ transplant program, pre-transplant, transplant, and post-transplant services in the country. The committee recommends that 8.598 billion be provided to operationalize the organ transplant activities, since we have now the facilities here, and another 7.4 billion for the Organ Donation and Transplant Council.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. We have this report. It's our report. We are reading it. I think it is important for members to have time for debate. Because the report is available. And this is a wish list. Because from here, they are now going to issue the second budget core circular. And then after we get ministerial policy statements, which again will come back to the committee, and Minister of Finance at that level will have captured maybe additional financing if they get the resource envelope from your recommendations. And then from there, they bring the budget estimates by 1st April. Though we requested the minister to do it earlier together with the tax bills, and then again we scrutinize. Okay? So since we went through all this, I think we better open up for debate so that members can discuss their critical areas. But let me allow the chair to conclude on this, and we have a minority report, and then we debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a minute to sit down. I think it was I needed it. Committee on Tourism, Committee on Environment and Natural Resources.
Whenever I said conclude.
Oh.
Yes, conclude with debate, because we have a report.
Yes.
And the whole report will be captured on the Hansard.
Yeah.
For record purposes.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, in the debate across the different submissions from the different committees, what was really important was the question of health, the question of rural electrification, the question of water, and the question of ambulances, the question of primary schools and secondary schools. So this was what has been done. It's about service points. So if we were considering this budget framework paper, I think colleagues, we need to pay attention to kind of points that provide services to our people. That is especially water, electricity, roads, health facilities. If we can do something about health, education, and I think that we will have done something that our people sent us to do in this house. I conclude by saying that, Honorable Speaker and members, the committee recommends that this August House adopts these recommendations highlighted in this report and consequently approve the budget framework paper 2026-27 to 2030-31 with the amendments for a summary of additional funding requirements as annexed in Annex 1, 2, and 3. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I've been following up with the committee. Honorable Siaga and team have been working in overdrive, but also all committees, sectoral committees, because I know some worked on public holiday, you worked on Sunday. So I really want to appreciate you, honorable colleagues, for the concentration and the time you've put in to catch up with the requirements of the law. But we have a minority report, so Honorable Semujo, please, if you can also summarize it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mine is not very big.
It's minority. It's mine.
Mr. Speaker, the budget framework paper and the main report have most of the issues. We have only disagreed on what to do with them. And I'll straight away go on compliance. Section 8.3 of the Public Finance Management Act states the minister shall for each financial year prepare a budget framework paper which shall be consistent with the National Development Plan and with the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. Consistency with the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility for Fiscal Responsibility and Development Plan is a legal requirement that even this Parliament cannot waive. One of the fiscal rules in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is the reduction of public debt to below 50% of GDP in nominal terms by the year 2025. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, you have been presented with a 69 trillion proposed budget, which of course all of you know will keep rising up to the final day of appropriation. Revenue correction is projected at 40 trillion and the rest of the money, 28 trillion, will be borrowed from domestic and external sources. So the proposal to borrow is captured on page 23 of the framework paper. The amount to be borrowed is nearly 40% of the budget. So if you approve the budget framework paper, which essentially is a draft budget, it means you have authorized the government to borrow the sums captured in the draft. Minister of Finance, the mover of this motion, is warning you that by approving the budget framework paper, you are actually authorizing them to breach the law. Their warning is captured on page 26 of the framework paper. This is what they are saying. For instance, the share of the public debt to GDP is projected to surpass the 50% target for the financial year 2025-26. And the ratio of domestic debt interest payment total revenue is also projected to exceed 12.5% benchmark. Additionally, the targets on fiscal deficit and revenue growth are also likely to be missed. The reasons these rules exist is to ensure the country's macroeconomic stability. This is like a hump in a road whose aim is to physically stop reckless drivers from overspeeding. The law wants to stop NRM government from reckless spending. Honorable Speaker and members, you therefore cannot proceed with this framework paper unless the Public Finance Management Act and the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is amended, or both. And it is not only us, Parliament, who are required to adhere to the law. Section 5 of the PFMA says Cabinet shall, in making decisions with implications on public finances or in determining, formulating, and implementing government policies, as well as in performing any other functions conferred on it by this or any other act, adhere to the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility and other requirements. Section 6 provides circumstances under which we may deviate from the objectives in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. They include a natural disaster, an unanticipated severe economic shock, or any other significant and unforeseen event that cannot be funded from the contingency fund. This is done with the approval of Parliament. Right Honourable Speaker, I am asking, is Parliament being given the right GDP figures? Schedule 3 of the Public Finance Management Act sets out areas the framework paper or the draft budget must address. One of these areas, the average and year-end gross domestic product figures. Sharing the right GDP figures with Parliament is a legal requirement. Just to refresh the mind of honorable members, GDP means the monetary value of goods and services produced in a year. It is these goods and services that we will tax to raise revenue to finance the budget. You must therefore have the right GDP figures at all times to determine how much borrowing are you going to authorize and the right revenue correction projection. In the framework paper, the GDP figure is not explicitly stated. The gross domestic product is stated in the budget framework paper on page 15 as 251 trillion 68. Even that's what the minister said. An increase from 202 trillion in the last year budget framework paper. In his written submission to the budget committee dated January 20th, the Minister of State for General Duties, the Honorable Musasi, states on page 2 that GDP is estimated to grow to 251 trillion. The GDP figure given by the Honorable Musasi is just a forecast. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics puts the GDP at 226 trillion as of last year. And when you calculate the debt to GDP ratio of 51 given on page 20 of the budget framework paper, it gives you 226 trillion as Uganda's GDP, which is 63 billion US dollar. It is therefore wrong for finance to give 251 trillion, which is a forecast, as the GDP figure. There is always a desire by the NRM leaders to exaggerate the country's growth, which is the reason they recalculate the GDP unnecessarily. Conflicting public debt figures. The Minister of Finance gives total public debt figure as 116 trillion, which is 32 billion US dollar on page 20. This finance says is an increase from 94.7 trillion, which is 26 billion, translating to a debt to GDP ratio of 51%. This debt to GDP figure is calculated using the UBOS 226 trillion, what they give in the budget framework paper, as the true GDP figures. Just for emphasis, the stock of public debt is 116 trillion and GDP is 226. Those are the figures that finance is using. However, the Bank of Uganda, in its December 2025 State of the Economy report on page 10, puts public debt at 124 trillion, translating into a 54.8 debt to GDP ratio. You can see the trick here. You lower the figure of public debt and exaggerate GDP to present a lower GDP to a lower debt to GDP ratio. Then you ask Parliament to authorize more borrowing on the pretext of a sustained public debt stock. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, public debt is plunging Uganda into a crisis. The NRM government plans to borrow over 18.5 trillion from the domestic market, commercial banks, to finance the budget. The 8.9 trillion will be new loans to finance the budget and 9.6 trillion to roll over maturing debt. The central bank is concerned with the domestic debt to private sector credit. By overborrowing from commercial banks, the NRM government is crowding out the private sector. The concern of Bank of Uganda is captured on page 10 of their December State of the Economy, and government is borrowing sometimes up to 19 trillion. So you are competing with the citizens that you want to empower. You remove all the money, they have nothing. Our borrowing from commercial banks serves the private sector, which is employing more than 85% of the population. Ratio of interest to revenue correction. One of the fiscal rules in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility is reduction of total domestic debt interest payment to revenue, excluding grants, to 12.5%. The government plans to spend 28.6 trillion on debt servicing next financial year, of which 12.7 trillion is interest payment. The interest payment for the domestic debt is 10.7 trillion, which is 26.7% of the projected 40 trillion revenue correction. The target is 12, but you are going to pay interest of 26. And this matter is a matter of law. The rule in the charter, but the budget framework paper interest payment will instead raise to 26. I hope Parliament will resist this. The Minister of Finance also agrees that such an elevated debt service burden shrinks fiscal space, leaving fewer resources available for discretionary spending in high multiplier growth enhancing sectors. And the committee noted that proposals in the budget framework paper offend even common sense. If you look at page 19 of the budget framework paper, the NRM government, the minister is praising here, wants to borrow from external sources 10 trillion to finance various projects. Certainly that will increase our debt stock as a country and will violate the rules we set ourselves out in the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. The question is, have we utilized the numerous loans we have contracted to finance various projects for us to contract more? The answer is a big no. And I want to thank the Minister of Finance. They have been very generous with information. If you read the July 2025 report on the performance of externally funded projects, you will know why you have remained poor. You also know the dangers of employing old people in critical offices, knowing their biological inadequacies. When people grow old, every part of the body slows naturally. Even the thinking slows down. They begin to think in installments. Many of the projects for which we have borrowed gross sums of money are either behind schedule or have completely stagnated. And here we are being asked to recklessly approve further borrowing. I now turn to the Minister of Finance report on externally funded projects. The Minister of Finance has been monitoring performance of these projects and done some reports to finance projects. Even in this budget, they are saying we should borrow another 10 trillion. But look, the table. The projects in agro-industrialization, 7 projects here, only 2 have been completed. 1 is on track, others behind schedule. Digital transformation, 2, 1 on track. Human capital development, 14 projects, only one completed, one on track, 12 are behind schedule. Integrated transport infrastructure and services, 12 projects for which we have borrowed money, only 2 completed, 1 on track, 18 behind schedule. I don't need to go, but the total below is that you have a total here of 66 projects sampled by finance. Only 6 are completed, 5 on track, 55 of these projects are behind schedule, including ones that you will see that have stagnated. And I'll give a list here. I'll be very brief because this is not my list. It is a list of Honorable Musasi. Kampala Jinja Expressway. We borrowed money to do this road. And I will go to the last line. This is how finance has assessed this. The physical progress of the project is 0. Money borrowed, progress is 0. They are saying, let us borrow more. That's what is in the budget framework paper. Busega Mpigi Expressway. Construction is at 46%. This road was supposed to have been completed years ago. They are at 46%. Part of the reason you will see, they are saying they don't have counter funding. And then they are saying, let us borrow and begin more projects. That's why I said you even offend common sense. In terms of airport rehabilitation, this one, there is progress. But the point is, because of the delays, we are now required to pay to the contractor the total sum of 34.9 million US dollar because we delayed. So the contractor says, you delayed here and here, pay me money. Even this one, although progressing, it was never delivered on time. The Bukasa project port, this one hasn't started at all, still in the preliminary. Kampala flyover construction, finance says it has stagnated. Kampala City Roads rehabilitation, they are now revising it. The time elapsed, they are revising it. And you know each revision comes with money. Multinational Kapchorwa, Suyam Kitare and Eldoret bypass. This one has almost been completed, but after a delay. Change Johoi Mamasindi Chigumba Road. The project have not been completed, more money is needed. National Lake Victoria Maritime Communication Transport Project. Here, overall progress is from 37 to by the end of April. So all these projects, they have delayed, no counter funding, they are contracting more. Ruwero Butarang Road. Worker is at 67%. A road that they started nearly 10 years ago, they haven't completed. Short stretch. Moyo, Yumbe, Koboko Road project. And you keep asking, why does the president repeat these roads in every budget? The progress, as you have seen, on some projects, it is 0. So every year he repeats, you think government is working. Namagunga Budadiri Narugugu Road project. The progress of the project was at 4% against a planned 4.3. This one is still in infancy. The Northeastern Road Corridor Asset Management Project. Maybe I don't have to read each and every project that is here. But you need members to interact with these projects. And I am saying in this minority report, as I try to conclude, that we borrow money to do projects for which we pay a lot of money in interest, and we never complete this work. Part of the reason, no counter funding. Anyone who's sensible, you will not be contracting more loans when you don't have counter funding to finish the ones that you have undertaken. You will see there is one here for private sector. I think I will stop with that one, which is project 22. Investment for industrial transformation and employment project. The investment for industrial transformation and employment is a collaborative program between the government of Uganda, represented by Minister of Finance, Bank of Uganda, private sector, and the development partners. So this project we borrowed 218 million US dollar. The idea was that the project starts in 2022 and ends 2027. However, due to delays in approval, The project effectiveness date was 13th November 2023 and the closing date is 31st January 2027. The project targeted to benefit 140,000 medium, small and macro enterprises and 120,000 refugees. Of these, at least 40,000 expected to be women-led macro enterprises. The larger sized firms also benefit from the intervention. The overall project performance was poor at approximately 0.3% and significantly behind schedule. Even where you want to borrow money to help companies that are employing people, you don't utilize it. And then you come to Parliament, you say, can we borrow more? I don't know, maybe the Honorable Musasizi enjoys the word borrowing. So if he ever brings a report that doesn't have the word borrowing, he will feel very bad. You have electricity access scale-up project, same problem. Upgrade of health centers, 2 to 3, same problem, behind schedule. Uganda secondary education expansion project, money borrowed, project not making progress. I am saying in this report, don't allow them to borrow until they have completed and made progress on these ones, or else you'll just be enlarging the list. You borrow money, you pay. When you are looking at the report on loans, you will discover we pay commitment fees on money unutilized, which money we need to do other things that are being listed here.
Can you read the report?
If I read the report, I will read it because now I am concluding. If you want me, Mr. Speaker, I can read the report.
If you had read
it, I am concluding now. I am on page 15, which is the last one, on rate of employment and unemployment. The committee notes that actually this information is not given, yet is a requirement by the law. One of the economic variables, the budget framework paper is supposed to address the rate of employment and unemployment in the country. This is what Schedule 3 of the law demands. Without providing any basis, the Minister of Finance states on page 16 of the framework paper that one of the macroeconomic objectives of government next financial year is to increase the stock of new jobs to about 800,000. The figure of how many jobs they created this or last year is not given. Just throwing figures around. The target of government in the NDP3 was to create 512,000 jobs annually. Like other NRM targets, this was never made. Maybe they have only made the one of staying in power. National Planning Authority in Empowerment and Skills Status Report 2022 reported that the yearly net job creation averaged 320,000 against a target of 500,000. This is too little considering that every year 700,000 Ugandans join the job market. If you look at the figures of PE and NSSF, there are just about 2.5 million formal jobs which keep fluctuating. The public sector, as you are aware, employs just 400,000 and the rest are in private sector. National Planning Authority estimates 15.8 million to be of the working age and 13 million of these are in the private sector. The Igbo census report puts the figure of the working age going by the labor policy of 2011 to about 24 million. The planning authority says the quality of jobs in Uganda remains low, with 78% of the labor force engaged in vulnerable employment characterized with low pay and job insecurity. Uganda, according to NPA and World Bank reports, has the lowest business survival rate in the world. Only 1 out of the 4 farms remain in operation after the first years of existence. This is what budget must address, but it is being mentioned in passing in the usual NRM business as usual casual manner. Younger people need jobs, and you cannot respond to this demand by violence and prison. Hundreds demanding equality life have been brutalized and imprisoned during this electoral period. Mr. Speaker, you know Sam Mugumya, we've been told he is being held by the army, very sick. Maybe you're not even sure if he has not died. So this is the response of the NRM. When people are demanding for work, prison. The NPA notes that while official figures show that unemployment reduced from 11 to 9 and 8.8%, in absolute terms, unemployment persists as a result of many Ugandans engaged in vulnerable employment, which is often characterized by low productivity. That's why our girls mainly are being trafficked to Middle East to work as housemaids. The boys who remain here are being marched to Luzira, Chitaria, and Kigo for disturbing the judges. The World Bank, in its July 2025 Human Capital Development and Growth Review, says Uganda is failing to harness 61% of its human capital for socio-economic development. Mr. Speaker, I am only emphasizing information which the Honorable Musasizi has given, and I thank him, which the committee has given, but they are shying away. They are saying, you, regardless of the non-compliance, please approve the framework paper. These are the dangers that you face. I ask you, honorable members, to reject this framework paper. They go and they do it. First, to comply with the law, and second, to comply with common sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Shadow Minister. I'll request the Minister of Finance if he has any responses which would want to make, which can guide us during debate.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to appreciate the Majority Committee of the Budget and the other sectoral committees for the deeper analysis they have done on our budget framework paper. I also wish to thank Honorable Semuju, the Shadow Minister of Finance, for strengthening and emphasizing some of the points which we made in our report. Mr. Speaker, it is true that our public debt is projected to go beyond 50% minimum target. But Mr. Speaker, this is not a problem. Why? Because our numbers continue to show that our debt obligations are manageable now and also in the long term. We have not failed to pay on any commitment as and when it falls due. Mr. Speaker, on debt, the focus of all of us should be, what are we borrowing for? If we are borrowing to invest in the economy, there is no problem. If we are borrowing to grow our GDP, there is no problem. It becomes a problem when we are borrowing for luxury. That is the borrowing we should all be concerned about. Mr. Speaker, on the GDP numbers, our source of information is UBOS. And what UBOS gives us, Mr. Speaker, we should trust the authorities we put in charge of some of these numbers. So if we come here and begin questioning the numbers UBOS has given us on GDP, then which other authority would we rely on? Mr. Speaker, also on the debt numbers, our difference with BOU is mainly on the timing. Whereas for us, we report as per June, sometimes BOU captures as per December. And this creates the small variance you see. Like now you are seeing 116 by us and 124 by BOU. If we go into June of 2026, you will see our number capturing what BOU has captured. Mr. Speaker, the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility is our guiding tool, together with the NDP and also the manifesto. However, Mr. Speaker, consistency does not mean exact. Consistency means whatever you are doing should be close to the what? To the guiding principles. Mr. Speaker, when you deviate from the charter this year, as long as you commit that within a certain period, you will come back to the charter, this explanation is acceptable. Therefore, my friend, Honorable Semuju, I wish to invite you to look at these things squarely. We have been together in this. I'm going to miss you because you have been helping me in keeping me awake, because sometimes you go deeper to invite me to do a deep analysis of some of these things. But also I invite you to, let's always look at these matters squarely. And maybe lastly, on the projects, yes, we have a number of projects which we have borrowed for and have not taken off. But where have we come from? In 2012, the situation which was there, some of you, my colleagues who have been here with us, you know that we would borrow for a project even when there is no appraisal or feasibility study being done. You find Parliament approving funding for a project where no process has taken place. But now, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that for a project now to come here, it must pass through our PIMS process. And we are now saying that where there is no money for counterpart funding, no, I am not accusing Parliament. I am accusing both of us. Yes, I am not accusing Parliament. I am saying this previously used to happen. But for now, what have we done? We have subjected up serious approvals, rigorous approvals, PIMS process, and also for the project to succeed, we must confirm that there is counterpart funding in the budget. And this is why you see, I'm sure, colleagues, most of our stakeholders come to lobby you. Why is our project not moving? Why is this, that? There is now serious restrictions. And going forward, Mr. Speaker, I commit that this weakness of delayed projects will not continue happening. I want to use this example of Busegampigi. Busegampigi, this is one of the projects I found in the ministry when the borrowing had been done. You borrow, you approve a request for borrowing, no feasibility study has been done, nobody has even gone on ground to assess where the road is going to pass. And by the time we go on ground, we find that the cost which was initially borrowed is not even half of what is required. You ideally need another amount amounting to 100% or so.
Maybe, Honorable Minister, just clarification. Because I was part of the National Economy Committee when we approved that loan. We went on the ground. We saw, okay, where the road was going to pass. The ministry, I remember the committee was chaired by the Honorable Saida Bumba. It was really, I want to absolve myself if your government didn't do your part. And I want to tell you where the problem came from. And you told us as government that we shall be having around 14 kilometers of swamp. And we are going to build above the swamp. Because we were concerned on environmental degradation. I think I heard Honorable Alex Biarugaba, Honorable Rico, Honorable Cooper, we were all members of that committee. And we asked very many difficult questions. They presented a feasibility study. Engineer Patrick Mureme presented a full design. And we spent days and we had a robust debate here because Honorable Katuntu, I remember when he was talking about the cost of the road. Now the problem came when they reached in UNRA and changed the design. They changed the design and now decided to backfill the swamp. Okay? They changed the design to backfill the swamp. They had told us in the design, they had included in the design connecting to the Entebbe Expressway and the bypass. In the design they gave the contractor, there was no connection to the expressway. So what is very important, Honourable Minister, why I brought out this, it is very important for you to inform government agencies that what you bring to Parliament and is approved should be what is implemented. Otherwise, the project ended up costing more than double. Yeah, so I just wanted that to go on record. Otherwise, I couldn't sit on a committee that would approve a road where there was no feasibility study.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for that institutional memory. However, we have struggled to correct those past mistakes. No, there is nothing. The speaker was enhancing my submission. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that all these mistakes have been corrected, and now we are at the point of starting.
Takeoff.
We are at the point of takeoff. The Busegampiji project is now going to take off. Mr. Speaker, I think I have tried to, on the unemployment rate, yes, this is a big concern to all of us as Ugandans and representatives of the people. But the question of focus should be, where are these jobs? The jobs are mainly in the ATMs. And when you look at the priorities I highlighted in my motion, I am requesting Parliament to appropriate money in these key areas which bring jobs to the people of Uganda. I think this is what we should really be concerned most about. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. So, honorable colleagues, we are going to have a debate on the report because the reports are together. We have seen the issues raised by the Honorable Semuju, consistency with the requirements of the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. I think we are going to get a new charter soon, isn't it? Just 3 months after. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform the House that we are preparing a new charter. It will be coming soon, before this House is prorogued.
I think 3 months after the election. Yes. Yeah, as per the law. So we're going to ensure that's followed. And it's very, Honourable Minister, I think on the issue of deviation, we need to go to agree. Really, maybe you can always engage with colleagues, even off this platform, okay, on these matters. For example, when you look at Section 7 of the PFM on deviation, we had COVID, which hit you hard, one of the issues which would have been a reason for you revising the charter. And I think the moment we keep interacting, even off here, some of the deviations, because some of the pressures you're having were due to natural disasters and unforeseen circumstances. And then we come here, we debate, and we see how best we can move. But on the issue of roads, honourable colleagues, I think, Honourable Minister, we shall need more clarity and more commitments going forward. In the budget, we shall maybe see in the Ministry of Policy statement and in the budget estimate, the commitments you make on counterpart funding. Because the Committee on National Economy always gets a commitment in writing, but the money is not in. So I think when we are scrutinizing the budget, Honorable Chair, for budget, we shall need to focus much on counterpart funding, but also completion of the loans, of the projects. And maybe, Honorable Minister, the issue of acquisition of land before taking off of these projects, because it's a very big concern. Someone is given, they commence the project when land is not available. Man says, I mobilized it, I need $30 million. My equipment was idle. I think you need to be much, much stronger on that. Otherwise, honorable colleagues, I want to guide our debate because the budget framework paper is not about the road that is not in your constituency. It's not about the classroom that has not yet been finished. No, it's linking national development objectives to the budget, to the proposed expenditure in a national framework manner, not just your constituency. And the moment we take that route, it will be much, much easier. And maybe, Chairman, budget, I don't know how we shall narrow down, because everything that was captured when I was reading through the report, you'll find we have nearly over 200 trillion of unfunded priorities, over 200 trillion. So we are throwing what the agencies had thrown at the ministry, and the ministry said my resource envelope is 69 trillion, and we are again throwing it back on. So I think we need, you need to guide the committee that we reduce at this level of BFP. We don't capture whatever they brought us unfunded. Chairman, budget, you wanted to comment on that? The Chairman is Yagi. And then we continue with the debate. And Mayor, we welcome you, Road Mayor. Direct. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable.
Congratulations, Honorable Korik. And we shall support you from here. Shall support you to make our city work. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable. Right Honorable and colleagues, we only have these issues because of the way we do the budget. And I would like to ask to agree with our colleagues, the sector committees, not to receive the budgets from the MDS without costed worker plans. I would like to agree that there is a lot of money redundant within the budgets, which cannot be justified. But now we need to drill down to the last shilling by all these MDS providing costed work plans. You will find money being abandoned. I thank you.
Chairman, Budget Committee, can I guide that you hold a meeting as the chairman of the Budget Committee with the Minister of Finance and his team? He will determine who to come with, and chairpersons of committees to agree on how you're going to process this budget from MPSs, from Ministry of Policy statement, so that we make your work easy. Would it help?
Yes, most obliged.
Yeah, so arrange and coordinate with all chairpersons. Since they are members of your committee, you have an in-house meeting. Yes, Honorable Taylor.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, on that matter, there is an unsettled debate which probably could guide this House. We have had issues on what amounts to budgeting and appropriation. At every time on the request of costed work plans, the response from finance, usually the PSST, is that we are going into budgeting and not appropriation. So we have not settled that discussion between the technical team of Ministry of Finance and this institution. That is why in the last budgeting cycle we had issues which led to the challenges we had on the processing of the budget. It's my humble prayer that we have that matter settled, appropriation budgeting vis-a-vis the responsibility of the House. I thank you.
No, but where is the problem? Because appropriation is what we do on the table here on the final day. Because appropriation is the raw. Okay? There we are passing the appropriation bill. Okay? Which has very clear figures that would say go here, go here, go here. But now the process to reach on those final figures that would go into the appropriation bill that would consider here on the table is what is very, very critical. So, Honourable Minister, what Honourable Taylor is raising, isn't it an issue which you can guide on, you can guide your technical people to reconcile with our committee?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't know what Honorable Taylor is trying to drive at, but as far as we are concerned, we have no problem in this process. Us at Finance, it's a consultative process between Parliament and the Ministry of Finance. And we have always agreed by consensus on these issues. That's why even you see in the House, unlike in the previous, I remember in the 9th Parliament, there are times when we would have a lot of back and forth, even the extent of voting on the budget. But here, we always harmonize and come here when we have really harmonized. So, Mr. Speaker, me, as far as I am concerned, I don't know what the chair of budget and the members think, but from our side as Finance, we really appreciate the working relationship on the budget with Parliament, both from the leadership and the committee members and all committees of the House, because we always consult each other in these processes.
So, Honourable Minister, colleagues, issues to do with the process and all that, let them be handled in that meeting between leadership of the budget committee with the leadership of sector committees, okay, and Minister of Finance, so that you go in-house, you see where there are challenges, you harmonize, and you come up with a budget and process that is acceptable to all of us, okay? Thank you. Colleagues, the debate. Yes, Isaac, Enos, Dr. Boka. Oh, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rinda, Honorable Net, Honorable Pachuto, Honorable Chamonges, Honorable Nachimwero. 3 minutes each.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank the Chair Budget Committee for the presentation of this initial budget paper. Right Honorable Speaker, I do acknowledge and appreciate the Ministry of Finance. Of course, we can see he has presented the budget, the National Budget Framework paper, that is less about 2.9 trillion to the 2025-2026 budget of 72 trillion. That means they are acknowledging what we always call for in this parliament, reduction in expenditure. But I hope the number will not increase by the time we reach the final budget estimates. Right, Honourable Speaker, the issue of water. Water, of course, is a cornerstone to most of the national developments, indeed. It is a driver in terms of health and in terms of national development. And what we have done in this parliament is that in the beginning, we still had over 20,000 villages not connected to safe water. And it is sad that even at this point, there is not much emphasis being done in terms of providing safe water to most of our communities, despite of water being one of the major crucial drivers in terms of health, and in terms of also making sure that we have safe water for our areas. Most of our villages are still not connected. So I hope this is a matter that can be taken up very seriously in the next budget cycle. It's a bit saddening that the money for the Ministry of Works in terms of maintenance, their budget has been reduced by about 12%. This is a bit sad because, one, we know very well what is happening in most of our roads. The condition of our roads needs a lot of money, and if right now we are starting to see reduction in the budget which is supposed to be used for maintaining our roads, this is something we need to actually look at very clearly. But Mr. Speaker, I also think that it is crucial for the entities, especially like Ministry of Works, that the money which comes for maintenance should at least be increased. We are focusing on new roads, but forgetting the already existing roads. So the three steps we move forward, we come back again backwards. So I think we should try and make sure we have enough money in terms of maintenance of our roads. In terms of electricity, that's another key development in the National Development Program, and like the Chair Budget informed us, the issue of rural electrification. That is something which has always come up every year regarding the money. Ever since we closed the rural electrification company, things have stopped going right in our country, in our rural settings. I hope something comes out clearly from the Ministry and from the Ministry of Finance, what plans they have in making sure that our sub-counties in the villages that are not yet connected to electricity can be connected to electricity. Because in order to improve PDM as a national development program, we need access to electricity in our rural areas so that we have enough small-scale factories coming in. Right over Speaker, also I noticed that in the education, in the Ministry of Education's vote, the money for enhancing the salary of arts teachers.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to thank the team, the Budget Committee, but specifically I would say I support the motion that we pass the budget framework paper, but Right Honourable Speaker, I would like a few clarifications from the Minister. On page 6, the committee captures the allocative efficiency of the budget framework paper. The policy preamble is very beautiful. It smartly addresses our policy direction and all that. But when it comes to allocation, it does not reflect the policy direction. For example, I'm seeing that they have preliminarily allocated 84 billion to UDB from 414 billion to 84. I'm seeking clarification from the Honourable Minister. What could be the reason to move from 414 to 84 billion? Number 2, Right Honourable Speaker, we talk about the Charter for Fiscal Responsibility. It was capturing, it does not have a transitional period. The Public Finance Management Act lacks the transitional period, because when you check, now we are going to pass the budget without the charter. The charter is going to come after the budget. Now, my question again to the Minister, I'm seeking clarification, because some time ago we had asked for amendment of the Act. Possibly we would have amended the Act to capture that transitional period. When do you plan to bring an amendment to the PFMA so that we deal with most of the loopholes there? Number 2, Mr. Speaker, on page 18 they are talking about moving the poverty rates moving from 38 to 33%, and that comes from the PDM intervention. Through you, Mr. Speaker, again, when does the Minister intend to bring us a review of the...
Were these 3 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm seeking again clarification from the Minister on when we intend to have the review of the PDM to understand whether it's actually effective or not, because we are adding in more money, but we've not had any serious report or discussion on the performance of this program. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, again, the last question to the Minister would be on, actually this should be to the Prime Minister, because on page 29 they're talking about project execution being affected by land acquisition and all that. Some time ago we mentioned having an amendment to the Land Act so that we can help government to deal with project execution, mostly for areas where people refuse to give way to projects. When do we have this amendment brought to the House so that we can deal with this once and for all? Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. But Honorable Enos, for the record, we have a charter. No. Just a charter is 5 years. And when you go to section 5 of the PFMA, the minister shall not less than 3 months after the first sitting of the parliament after general election. So meaning we are still in this current charter. Okay? Yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
we cannot have
the same
budget
act talks about the charter taking 5 years, being renewed every 5 years.
Yes.
But when you look at the 5 years, it started with the budget of 2021, 2022. So when you do the calculation, it actually ended with the last budget. The budget we are dealing with of 26-27 will come into effect before the charter. That particular charter
is your mathematics. I didn't perform well in mathematics, but is yours really? Honorable, we have a charter, and that's why it's designed that way. So you have discounted 1 year if you do 5 years. Okay. Yes, we have a charter, and we expect the minister 3 months after the first sitting of parliament to bring a draft charter which we must process so that it can guide the next budgeting cycle. Honorable Kadidi, then Honorable Nachimwero, then I come back to Honorable Siraj.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to support the motion for approval of the budget framework paper. I have 3 observations. Observation number 1 is related to the performance of externally financed projects. Whereas on the one hand, we blame ourselves, the ministries, departments, agencies, and the parliament. On the other hand, there are certain practices within the donor conditionalities that constrain us. A case in point is the World Bank funded projects. And an example is the Uganda electricity scale-up project that was supposed to extend power to a number of communities that have not been connected. A case in point is Obongi constituency, where the project started 2-3 years ago, and a resettlement action plan has to be approved by the bank. And the ministry is waiting for that approval from the bank, which to me is micromanagement. As government, we need to sit down with our partners to review some of those micromanagement conditions. 2, external financing to the humanitarian community has grossly reduced, especially in refugees hosting districts. This has resulted in laying off of many Ugandans in the social service delivery sector. Our schools are understaffed, health facilities are understaffed because UNHCR and OPM and the many international and national organizations have laid down staff. Would like to see in the budget framework paper the ministerial policy statement and the ultimate allocation of resources for wage to be provided to recruit the staff that have been laid off and made redundant. Last but not least, Mr. Speaker, sir, while the president was traversing the country, he made a lot of pledges. And a case in point is the promise of a hospital for Obongi district. These are social contracts that should be considered in the annual work plan and budget, in the ministerial policy statements, and in the budget framework papers that we look forward to. I thank you.
Honorable Nachimwero.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, first of all, I would like to get an explanation on the targets that we set ourselves to achieve, especially in the charter, versus the convenience at the moment. Because if we divert from what we set ourselves to do, then it disturbs our thoughts. And in that line, Right Honorable Speaker, we came up with the National Development Plan 4, and it stipulated a number of targets. But you find that the submissions of most ministerial statements do not recognize these targets. And now we wonder what directs our concentration and submission and allocation of resources. Right Honorable Speaker, the issue of compensation is a serious one to derailing projects. I have identified that we need some special investigations on people who own land prior to project activities, especially in swamps. You find that nobody is supposed to have a title in swamps, but the moment a project is going to take place, ownership prevails, new titles, very recent new titles. I wonder why these are considered heavily compensated, taking a lot of project money, and we end up losing on electricity distribution and also water distribution, and very many other projects remain unfinished. Right Honorable Speaker, the issue of market access is still missing. We are trying to encourage our people to produce, but the income from what they produce is, people are not certain. And this is what makes our people very poor. We stay here claiming that the GDP has improved, we are performing well, but the actual pockets of our people are empty, and people are crying in absolute poverty. Why aren't these documents and observations not tally with the pockets of our people? We need to explain this, and it needs to come out very well in our submissions. But based on recently concluded campaigns, you can see that there was a lot of explanation on whether the government is for the people or not, based on the service deliveries.
Thank you, Honorable Siraj. Then Honorable Rinda, then Honorable Net.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker, the budget framework emphasized on the issue of employment opportunity. And it also emphasized on the issue of agro-industry. Right Honorable Speaker, we talked about how our youth have gone to Middle East in order to work there. And these youths could easily be absorbed in the industries that are constructed here in Uganda. Right Honorable Speaker, there are regions in Uganda where industries have not been built, yet people have given lands for the construction of these industries. Like in West Nile, you will find that people have given lands for industrial parks, and these lands have stayed there for long, unutilized. Right Honorable Speaker, since the budget framework has talked about the issue of agro-industrialization, I will request that something should be done in order to see that industries should be put on those places where industrial parks are given, so that our youths are employed in those areas. That could be the point where we could avail employment opportunities to our youths. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Rinda, then Honorable Net, then Honorable Pachuto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to seek clarification from the Minister of Finance, more especially on conditions that have been set and they have affected project implementation. A case in point is ULAN project, where we approved a loan last year to rehabilitate traditional schools. There's a condition that has been put that these traditional schools must have titles. These schools have been in existence for more than 100 years. And now the project cannot take on because the traditional schools sit on titles of the church land. So it is a very big problem, and now we are almost half year, and these schools may not benefit. So we'd like to get clarification, and we see what can we do. Otherwise, these conditions will continue affecting budget performance. Then secondly is on the issue of stalled projects. There are bridges that have been constructed, they are not completed. We have roads that have been on construction for the last 7 years, they have never been completed. Please, can we give these projects priority so that we complete these works? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Annette Mugisha and Honorable Pachuto.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity in approval of the budget framework paper. However, Mr. Speaker, permit me to raise an issue of abandoned electricity poles that were put up by REA 10 years ago. Right Honourable Speaker, last year around this time, we were here. And as 11th Parliament, we unanimously agreed that we prioritize connecting the electricity poles to the grid across the country. Right Honourable Speaker, up to now, nothing has been done. And we are not being brought up to speed. Mr. Speaker, during my campaign trail, the question of electricity was very pertinent by voters. And we kept on telling them that money is in the budget. They are going to connect these poles to the grid. However, I'm surprised that the budget framework paper we are about to approve, it is nowhere to be seen. And again, the financial year is coming to the end. We need the Ministry of Energy to bring us up to speed and tell us the progress. Mr. Speaker, it is a very serious issue. We are failing to legislate. We are failing to represent our people, and therefore we need a very authentic response so that when we go back to our people, we actually also tell them what is going on. Otherwise, the situation is as bad as that. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Pachuto. Then Honorable Rusakero. Then Dr. Pio. Colleagues, I finished this side. I finished this side. I'm now this side.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, allow me to congratulate you and all other members here who participated in the recent elections. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to commend the Committee of Budget for the good report, as well as the minority report. Right Honourable Speaker, in a special way, allow me to commend the managers of this country, especially those in charge of the economy, whereby in the BFP, it has been reported that our balance, there's a positive balance of payment arising from the great support that government has given, support and attention paid to the coffee growing and gold. I also want to commend the Committee of Budget for recommending that there has to be a budget enhancement for the fishing sector to about 48 billion. Right Honourable Speaker, I think that apart from coffee and gold, our next economic activity that can really even make our BOP much better is the fishing industry. I know that the Budget Committee has recommended 48 billion, but for me, I think, having come from the fishing communities, Right Honourable Speaker, I want to persuade the House and the Minister of Finance to even increase the amount to about 3 times what the Budget Committee has reported, because the fishing communities have gone through a hell of things in the last 5 years, and they are all waiting, looking forward to this budget for the next financial year to salvage them from where they have been. Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to comment on the budget, on the Budget Committee's report, where it is stated that the BFP is not consistent with the NDP 4 to me, this implies that the planning for this country is not compatible with the strategic goals of this country, Mr. Speaker. I therefore want to, and this could be largely due to insufficient allocation to the NPA. For that reason, Right Honourable Speaker, I would recommend that the Ministry reconsiders strengthening NPA further so that our budgeting and planning are in tandem. Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, on the issue of wage bills, Right Honourable Speaker, I want to support that.
Thank you. I had forgotten Honourable Chemonges was supposed to be the next one. Then I come to Honourable Rusakero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I want to support the BFB, however, with some recommendations or seeking some clarifications on. When you listen to the presentation, you feel that we are really in a right road. But with the experience for the 4 years I've been here, Honorable Minister, you know, I've read it and I've understood it, but we need some clarifications on majorly education. For example, coding of primary schools, because we have very many parishes that do not have schools, primary schools, very many of them. Then on issues of water, you find we have districts with the town councils. Personally, I have our district of Queen has 3 town councils. These are town councils without water, no water. They should actually be closed. Then we have issues of power. It's a very serious issue. We have invested money even in these industrial skilling centers. We are now thinking about many other ways of creating jobs, like we talk about the industrialization. But issue of power, even in the seed schools we have invested money. You find we have computers, we have what, but we don't have power. We have health industries, we don't have power. For the last 3 years we have been talking about power. We have gotten money from here, but members, there is nothing like power in our areas. So I want to say, this is where I almost agree with the Honorable Semuju. For example, when we talked about even roads, we have our road, the Kapchorwa, Swam. They are saying the road is complete, but there are very many components that came with the road that are not complete. The town council roads. In my town council, that's Benin, we were given 3 kilometers of the town council roads. They have only done 1 kilometer. They have left 2 kilometers. The road, and they are saying the road is complete. So everybody is worried. They even prepared the roads that were to be tarmacked. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I would be very happy, and I think even to members, if such things are clarified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to thank the committee and also the minority report. Mr. Speaker, I want to start from what my colleague stated about the seed schools. I had actually noted it here. For some time, we have been talking about this. And if we are talking about employment, just like you said, Honorable Minister, this is one area that would find many of our people employed. Unfortunately, not seed school are the primary schools which were coded, but up to now they are not operational. And then two, I want to applaud you. The policy on SAGE was amended and the age was reduced to 65. That's really a plus, and my people are very happy about this. And I'm also happy that it has been accompanied with I think, some funding. I hope it goes up to the end. And then, Mr. Speaker, our policy on health centers very clear. Unfortunately, this is not being implemented. Many of our sub-counties in Uganda still don't have health center 3s. This should be also implemented. Finally, Mr. Speaker, if we are talking about agro-industrialization, we cannot leave out the issue of our roads. I remember there's a time we sat here as Parliament the whole day and we were talking about the state of our roads. If I remember very vividly, we talked about the machines which are missing, and it is my wish really that our BFP really captures this and also increase in the funding to the road sector, especially at district level. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Dr. Pio.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And
Honorable colleagues, I finished this side. You know, when we were starting, I picked colleagues from this side and then I went here. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank the committee for the report. Within this budget framework paper, I think one of the key issues is the level of alignment with NDP4. When you look at Table 1.18 under NDP4, it lists core projects under NDP4, which are indicating the start date, the end date, and even the funding. But when you look at the report, there is no provision of some of these core projects. For example, construction of the Karuma Bridge, which connects us to South Sudan and even to Congo. And last year we had serious issues on it, and the repairs we were told will only be temporary. But now we don't have any provision for this core project. My request to the minister is to have this considered under the second budget circular. The second issue is that this budget is also an AFCON budget, because it's the last budget before we host AFCON next year in June 2027. However, one of the critical infrastructure projects, construction of the Kona-Yer, Kona-Bohe-Cheme Bobi Road, which is supposed to connect Gulu City to Lira City, has not been considered. Again, I want to request that that is considered in the second budget circular. And lastly is the NRM manifesto. After approval of the NDP4, there were new commitments that came up. For example, in Lango, Acholi and Teso, the issue of cattle restocking came up towards the campaign period. And whatever has been provided is not really substantial to address the commitments. So again, I want to appeal that let's have this aligned to some of those post-NDP4 commitments that came in during the campaign period, so that there is full alignment with the NRM manifesto, with the AFCON requirements, and also with the NDP4. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Seungu, and then Honorable Mruri Mukasa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the law left behind, I want to thank the Minister for his presentation and the chairperson of the committee. But in my humble prayer, before I look at the issues, when you look at the minority report, Honorable Minister, the Busega Express Highway, now we are in 4 years, Masaka Road being closed at MPG, and no work is going on. Can I make a humble plea through the Speaker that since there's no work going on, kindly open this road for a time being. When you resume work, then business goes back to what you want. But imagine for 4 years, 4 years, we are going through MPG. And the tarmac within MPG will not be given consideration when the road is worked on. So what do we lose? Because they have put permanent fixtures on the road, vehicles which have had accidents are placed on the road, but within your powers and the Ministry of Works, sit and agree, open for us this road. Otherwise, the jam we are facing is too much. Mr. Speaker, sir, I do pray and seek, since you and the Minister of Finance, Honorable Uganda, agree on this minority report, some of the areas, why don't you sit and agree on some of the issues raised in the minority report? The moment you take that, you solve problems of this institution. It's very painful whenever a budget proposal given, brought here, Mr. Speaker, and after passing the budget, nothing is implemented. The challenge goes on the members of parliament. The same members did not support the budget. But we as the institution, as an arm of government, we give you all the support you want. What makes you fail to get counter funding? Is it parliament or the weakness is on your side? That question is between you and your office and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, sir, borrowing, non-performing loans. I don't know how much I can talk about. I am very interested in talking about teachers and their salaries with the commitment given by government. But should I come on the floor and say we should also borrow money for financing salaries? It shouldn't be me in this suit I'm putting on. So, but, Mr. Speaker, for me I don't have more than what I can say from the minority report. It's the duty of the Minister of Finance and your team. Look what is in the minority report. Look what members have raised, so that we avoid every time going for supplementaries. Yet the planning is on your side. Mr. Speaker, that's what I can say. But the issue of Massacre Road, since both of us, Mr. Speaker, use the same road, there is nothing wrong by opening up that road for a time being, and when you resume your contract, your road, then you close it as you work.
We have provided money, now they should resume work and finish. Yeah? You remember we passed a loan here. Yes, Honorable Minister Mururi Mukasa.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate you and the rest of the members here for having gone through a very hectic election exercise, and for you who succeeded, congratulations, and those that didn't, there's still another time. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the Minister for presenting this budget framework paper. It's very good. However, when I looked at it, I found there's one big element which was not included, maybe by oversight, maybe not, and that is the enhancement of salaries, particularly for the arts teachers and the local government workers. We've been here many times on the floor of Parliament over this issue of enhancement, and as a government we made commitments. We made commitments to the teachers, the unions and so on. Yes, that come the next financial year, there would be some enhancement. However, when I saw it here, there was nothing. I saw 0, 0, 0. That does not augur well. We presented a budget to the Minister of Finance, not only for the teachers, but for the entire workforce. Some of the workers there have not been enhanced since 2014. And actually, the category of workers who have enhanced is about 34% of the entire workforce. 66% has not had enhancement. Yet, the public servant, if we look at the whole thing as in machines, the software, if we want all these programs for economic development, very fast one, I think we cannot afford to ignore the public servant who is going to put all these things into effect. Let's have a service that is well remunerated very well and properly motivated, and then some of these developments we want will move very fast. I wish to implore the Minister of Finance that in the next budget circular that is coming, surely that aspect of enhancement, particularly of the teachers and the local government workers, is not left out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Honourable Minister, I don't know whether the second budget code circular comes to Cabinet, but I would urge that also be alert in Cabinet, because whatever comes here is from Cabinet. So be alert and we ensure we don't miss out.
Thank you very much for that prompt. I've actually been alert, and my colleague here is aware that when it comes to that, I've never slept.
Yeah.
However, for some reason or other, and they promise that they are going to do something, but when it comes here, there's nothing. But one thing must be clear, really, and let it be known. The remuneration of workers is important. If we are going to have this rapid economic development, we must have a properly remunerated workforce, and then we shall see the results. Challenge us.
Thank you.
Let's have this money, and you see our performance. If we don't perform, then you'll be right not to raise our money. But challenge us.
Thank you.
And I promise, give us this money, and the performance will be superb. Thank you very much.
And Honourable Minister, count on us here. We shall join hands with you and the Minister of Finance to ensure this is achieved. Honourable Minister for Finance, if you could start with that point, it would be even the happiest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of salaries for teachers and other government workers is a matter dear and known to us. But the President has always asked, in a situation where we can't do everything at a go, what do we start with? The prioritization element in budgeting. Do we borrow to pay teachers? Honorable Sewungo was asking. So, Mr. Speaker, this budget, Mr. Speaker, my main role is in the budget is to show you how much money I have in a given financial year, and together we agree on how to spend it. Mr. Speaker, after the next stage, we will go back to Cabinet to seek approval of estimates of revenue and expenditure. And by that time, we will ask Cabinet we'll put to Cabinet's attention the concerns Parliament has raised, and we get their guidance. At this point, I cannot commit. I will make a commitment after Cabinet has given me authorization. Mr. Speaker, mainly three things. One, Honorable Isaac is concerned that the resource envelope has declined 69, and he hopes this will not change. Mr. Speaker, in my motion, I said this is a preliminary resource envelope. Preliminary means it can either increase or reduce depending on the circumstances that will come as we finalize the budget. But most importantly is that, Mr. Speaker, on December 16th, on 16th of December 2025, I came here and presented the supplementary budget. And in this supplementary was, for example, money for maintenance of roads, 1.6 trillion. Maintenance items are recurrent in nature. These will still come back in. So, Mr. Speaker, there are items which have not yet been captured at this stage, especially the recurrent items. I'm sure you heard the chair mentioning something about the arrears. We have the commitment to make good all the arrears in 3 years, and when we look at our numbers, that requires about 1.4 trillion per annum. So, Mr. Speaker, the budgets like works, arrears, education, health, and others will definitely change as we finalize the budget, so that we take care of the recurrent items which we will not avoid during budget implementation. Mr. Speaker, there is an issue. Why is the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility coming after the budget? Mr. Speaker, we are preparing this budget, and the speech will be read in June. And this budget will become effective on 1st July. Mr. Speaker, until end of June, the charter we have is still effective and valid. So and I will lay proof of consistency to the charter when I bring the estimates on 1st of April. On PDM, Mr. Speaker, this is also a matter which requires cabinet approval. We have all been to the field, and the President has also been to the field, and his findings from the field is that within the next 3 years, all our households should have benefited from PDM. I have, for example, in my constituency where I've been campaigning, I have parishes with over 1,500 households, and other parishes with less than 300 households. And all these households are getting 100 million per annum. So I am of the opinion, for example, that the big parishes should get more than 100 million. But this will require me to go to cabinet and seek the President's guidance about it, and subsequently it will require me and get the input of Parliament about it. But colleagues, if this comes, I want to ask that you support the idea of supporting big parishes with increased PDM financing. I want to take
Thank you so much. My question was so much on whether we've done any review to see how effective it is. Not on the allocation. The allocation is very good, the disbursements are okay, but how effective is the program vis-a-vis the money we are injecting in?
Okay. Thank you so much, Enos. I was trying to answer in a more practical way because I have been in the field. I know where the problem is. So the problem is failure to give money to those who want it. Not because, not impersonate, that one is also there. But can we give money to all PDM beneficiaries who want it? Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude like this, that at this stage of budgeting, this is part of the consultations we make in the budget process. At this stage of budgeting, we have taken all the input from both the committee and the plenary. It will all form part of the recommendations by Parliament and comments by Parliament on the budget framework paper. I want to commit that we will try as much as possible to capture your input in the second budget called Satura and in the policy statements. Funds are permitting, and I want to invite you and to ask for your continued support in this budget, especially considering that your timelines, Mr. Speaker, are a little bit stringent, and considering that the term of Parliament is coming to an end. I want to appeal to you that we all sacrifice our time so that we are able to perform this constitutional mandate given to us by the people of Uganda. Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Colleagues, I put the question on the motion for adoption of the National Budget Framework Paper, financial year 2026-2027 to financial year 2030-2031 be approved by this House. Those in favour say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it with a very big single nay. No, there was one very loud nay which should be captured properly. But the ayes have it. Yeah, with a very loud single nay. So, honorable colleagues, I want to congratulate you on this task. I want to repeat this, that we are going to give you enough time to focus on the budget, in the budgeting process, focus on preparations, because this being a transition year, we need to prepare very, very, very well so that we finish the budget by the end of April. Our plan as the leadership, once again, is to prorogue the House at the end of April so that we prepare for your swearing in, for the swearing in of the new parliament, which will be on 13th, 14th, and 15th. Because the president will be sworn in on 12th, and we want to take opportunity of the people you would have brought to attend the president's swearing in, and then yourselves being in Kampala, so that it is done at once. And then we've already agreed with the president about this time. So, House adjourned, sign die.